but there's no option for me to, okay, anyhow, I think I'm live and I'm yakking away at Facebook. What's important is I'm having fun, guys. Setting up my webinar, redirecting me to Facebook. I think we're live, but I don't trust it. So, okay, there we go. I can see that I'm live. Now, how do I mute this? I'll mute it that way. There we go. Oh, that's odd. My Facebook sort of live console is not giving me an option to mute the video. It's just like, here you go. Here's the video. Anyhow, hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday. It's hot. That's why I'm wearing this teal tank, this tank top. And yet, I'm going to pour tea because that's what we do here. If we didn't pour tea, I mean, then the terrorists have truly won if we're not pouring tea live. And if I'm not spilling it on my desk like I just did, I don't know if you saw that, but there's now tea on my keyboard. So this is going to be a very special episode of the live show where I take this cloth and I wipe up the tea that I've spilled on my keyboard, and we find out how robust a keyboard is to having tea spilled on it. Fortunately, this isn't the live show where I'll do a lot of typing. I'm going to teach you how to keyboard quickly in another live show, not this one. I'm not actually going to do that. So, okay, there we go. I've wiped up the tea. I have this cool mug. I'm going to set it back down and try not to spill. I'm going to endeavor not to spill any more tea. And then I'm going to put my attention right here at this camera and talk a little bit. I'm excited about this live show today. We've got two guests. We've got Andrew Mundy and David York. And what we're going to do is, I like to think of it as like a sneak preview for the Forge, a little bit of letting you in on some of the work we do in the Forge. And one of the things we do in the Forge is we provide coaches with feedback in the moment. I want to break that down a bit. So what typically happens in almost all leadership conversations is you get a 360 review. This is the way feedback happens in the world, is you get a 360 review. And it like happens and you're told like about something you did 6 months ago. Like you're not really given any specific moment. You're just told like, hey, you know, around some people, they find you can be kind of short. So try to be less short. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll try to be less short and impatient with these morons, because that's kind of what gets triggered. We get triggered when we get feedback, almost always, both positive and negative. And at our very best, like if we can receive that feedback and be like, okay, I want to improve, we're kind of left with this experience where someone's showing us a bit of our blind spot, like, hey, you can become short. And we intellectually understand that about ourselves. We know that's true. But this is the nature of our blind spot, is we can intellectually get it, but we can't see it in the moment because it's in our blind spot. And so what tends to happen is we're like, oh, got it, I can be short. I do know that about myself. Brackets, it's not my fault. It's the morons that are stupid. And this is kind of how it shows up for me. Maybe not for you. I know that about myself, so I guess I'll just try harder. And then what ends up happening is, because that is a part of our blind spot, because it lies in our blind spot, we can't really do anything about it. We make our best attempts, we're earnest in our attempts, but we can't catch it in the moment. And so that's not very powerful feedback. And the reason that feedback's delivered that way is a fewfold. One, because most people in leadership positions have almost no training in the art of providing feedback and being with people as they react to the reception of that feedback. Like I said, getting feedback is triggering. When you give me feedback, I might get cold. My heart might shut down. I might get angry. I might get annoyed. I might get defensive. There's all these things I might do. I might burst into tears. And most leadership today is kind of based inside of a context. It's born out of a context where like there's not much room for emotions. Just hold your shit together, get the job done. Yeah, leadership. America, fuck yeah. Thinking of Team America, World Police. I'm not throwing shade at America here. That's not my intention. And so because we don't have much capacity to be with people as they have whatever reaction shows up in the response to getting feedback, we just avoid that. So a 360 review gives us this really clean, easy way to do that. I don't have to be with you when you're triggered in the moment because I'm giving you feedback. I just get to give it to you 6 months later. Nice big cushion for you to receive feedback and have whatever experience you're having. So that's fine. That's part of why we do it, but it doesn't work. It's not very effective. And so in the Forge, we're working to develop people's leadership and their coaching and their capacity to show up powerfully as a coach. It's all about reflecting how they're being. And we work with that by having them practice and then giving them feedback in the moment as it's happening. And what's amazing about that is that you can address it in the moment. You can see what's happening in the moment as opposed to trying to remember it 6 months later. So imagine you were working with, let's say, a squash coach. I used to work with squash coaches, and imagine that the way they worked with me is like I'd play a bunch of tournaments, and then I'd go for 6 months, and then at the end of the 6 months they'd sit me down and they'd be like, "Okay, I talked to a bunch of different people. You're not watching the ball when you hit it, and you're not bringing your arm back far enough to prep for your shot." That's a forehand shot right there. Here's a backhand. Nice drop, bam. And so that would be terrible coaching. That would suck, because I'd be like, okay, I got to watch the ball more, but when? Like, I feel like I'm doing it good. And then the times when I'm probably most going to benefit from noticing I'm not watching the ball are the times when I'm totally oblivious to that. The most powerful type of coaching we can get in sports is when I swing and my coach goes, "Stop, look at where you're looking." And I'm like, well, I'm looking at my racket, or I'm looking at the wall where I want to drop the ball to, or, all of that sort of stuff. And so that's what we're aiming for. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break that down a little bit. Before we go to that, I'll talk a little bit here about, I want to share just briefly about my time in Costa Rica sitting in ceremony. Bay and I are going to do a live on Saturday, so we'll elaborate to a much greater extent some of what happened. But one of the really big parts of my experience with the medicine this time, part of what I brought down was this notion of surrender. I on some level, I felt like, I feel like I've got some work to do just in surrendering myself, becoming more surrendered, allowing more of whatever the experience is to happen. And so I foolishly brought that as my intention, and I was sitting there trying to surrender. And the way that kind of played out would be that each night you drink the medicine. The way that the structure of the evenings is, you drink the first cup, they call it after they've blessed the medicine, and then about an hour passes, and then they call for the second cup. And after that, you can go up and ask for more medicine as much as you want. They're going to feel you out, like, how deep is this person in this? Or, they've had 7 cups of medicine. It seems like maybe the problem is not that they don't have enough medicine. Maybe there's some mental block or something like that. And what I found was going on during these evenings was I had this concern, like, what if the medicine doesn't reach me? What if I don't drop in? What if I don't have a phenomenal night? What if I just have like a boring, lackluster kind of, not unpleasant, just a relaxing night? And there's no, like, I don't get the thing I came for, I don't get the big prize that we're here for. Wow, we have no viewers today. It was a very quiet Friday. This is what it's like doing lives during the summer. For those of you watching in replay, this is how it goes. I even wore my best tank for you guys. So I was lying there, frustrated, and part of the theme throughout probably the first 3 out of the 4 nights that I was sitting in ceremony was this attachment to the night going a certain way. And as long as I was attached to the night going a certain way, I was like, I don't want the night to suck. I don't want the night to look like this. I don't want the night to be quiet. I don't want the night to not blow up. So I was really attached to the way that I needed things to go. And because of that attachment, it kind of got in the way of the night going the way it was going. I was stuck on this idea of how it must be. There's a Zen parable that matches this and mimics it, where this person goes to a Zen, a sword master, a person who forges swords, and he says, "Master, I wish to learn the art of forging swords. I really want to do this, and I'm really committed. How long will it take me to achieve mastery?" And the master pauses and takes a breath and probably smokes like a pipe or does something cool like that. Maybe, I don't know, whatever cool, probably strokes like a long mustache. And he goes, "It'll take 10 years. And the person says, "Well, what if I really dedicate myself? And what if I'm really focused and I put every waking hour of every waking minute into my mastery, and I really put my attention and focus on that?" The master again strokes his mustache and smokes from his pipe, maybe drinks some tea at this point, probably chops a few logs of wood. And then he says, it'll take you 20 years. And the student's like, how can that be? I'm extra dedicating. I'm putting myself even more into the commitment. And the sensei says, yes, but with that level of attachment and significance that you're bringing to your work, you won't be able to surrender into what's being provided to you. You won't be able to learn from your mistakes because you'll be so fixated on not making mistakes. You won't be able to allow the art to find its way into you. You are rigid. It will take you 20 years. You'll have to break through that. And so that was a lot of my process through this this time was, each night went off. It's quite profound, the work that I ended up doing, but it took me a long time to drop in because I had so much attachment to like, here's how it has to look. Here's the way that the work has to come to me. Here's the breakthrough that needs to get created. And all of that made it so that I could not allow whatever was happening to come to me. I was so fixated on what I didn't want to have happen. Crazy. Tough lesson to learn. Surrender is not an easy thing to pick up. And one of the things that happened was I'm just trying to remember how this went. Bear with me here. Lost my train of thought. Talked myself right out of my point. I was, the sort of way it went was that I was sitting there hanging on to this idea, like, well, maybe I'll still get to dance. I love to dance at ceremony, and they played really good music. And but the music was like mellow this night. I'm like, music's soft, I'm not gonna get dance either. And as I was practicing surrendering to that, the experience I had was almost like grieving the loss of these things. Well, I got to the point where I was like, I guess this is the night that's here for me. And I guess I'm not going to get to dance the way I want to dance in this moment. And I guess that just has to be like, that's the way it is. And so in that moment, I kind of mourned losing that, oh, I'm not going to get to do that. And I felt sad. That's the way it was. Let myself feel sad about that. And then like, yeah, I guess I'm not going to like go home and be blown by my internet stable, get stable internet connection. I'm going to be blown out by the stars and the moon and the sky and like all of nature that I can see. What a bummer. I'm going to let that go. Maybe I'm just going to go to bed and I'm going to have like a really nice sleep. Maybe I'll have 8 hours. And as I mourned each of these, it kind of like allowed a little bit of space for what was coming my way to come my way, bit by bit, as I mourned and grieved and allowed those things to fall away. So I learned a lot about surrender, and I was really present to like, what a tough lesson that is for me to learn. Not an easy one, and not finished by any stretch of the imagination. The opportunity was really for me to be in a state of practicing surrendering. And what a beautiful way that medicine brought it to me. She, Mother Aya, brought me this opportunity where I was like, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be so great. And it was like, it's fine. This sucks. I'm bummed out. This is the way it's going to be. And that's how we practice surrender. It's not reading a book called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, which is a great book. And then we're like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to meditate. Someone's going to build a house on my land, and then they'll leave the house to me. And then this happened to Michael Singer, and it's going to be so cool. I can't wait. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Surrender's easy when you surrender to like an ice cream sundae being placed in your hands. But that's not really where the practice in surrender lies. That's just receiving. The practice in surrender lies in letting go of that which we are attached to, what we are clinging to. The practice in surrender lies in like being with what we don't want to be with. And in that practice lies freedom, because we can let go of our attachment to what isn't, to what we wish to be, what should be. And instead we can enter into partnership with what is. And at that place, your need to be free from something falls away, because you are now totally at peace with things exactly the way they are. And there, where you're left with is freedom to be however you want to be. That's real freedom, as opposed to like freedom from a particular circumstance. So anyhow, challenging, but really rewarding, rich ceremony for me this time. Integrated a whole bunch of stuff from the last few times I've gone and sat. I'll share more about that on Saturday. So be sure to tune in. I don't actually know the time that Bay and I are going to choose. Probably around 10 a.m. We'll probably go live. Come join us. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so let me tell you a bit about who we're going to bring on. I'm going to keep them off for just a little while longer, but Andrew is going to be our coach, and he's working with a client of his, David, today. I was telling David he's got the easy job. He just has to show up and be coached. He doesn't have to do anything right, and he gets to be exactly the way he wants to be. And being a client, the biggest challenge is trusting whatever's showing up for us. So if we're like in a conversation with our coach, we're like, fuck, this is annoying what they're saying to me. Our job as a client is to be like, this is annoying what you're saying to me. What makes being a client hard is that we're like, that's wrong. I should be empowering my coach, or I should be, and we get all this should. But really the job's easy. If we can trust whatever's showing up for us and just allow that, beautiful. Andrew and I connected probably, I don't know, it feels like it's been about 3 years ago. And I think he initially, I don't know how he found me initially. You know what? Let's bring him on and we'll find out. So Andrew, David, let's get your mics on. Let's get your cameras on. Boom. You're out of the green room. Boom. Right. David's out of the green room too. What's up? Hey. Andrew, how did we get into relationship initially?
So it was Sherry Patterson that introduced us to each other.
And why? Was it because we lived close to each other?
No, I think just sort of the pathway that I was going down. I think what she saw in me, she must have seen that there was some connection between the two of us. That us being in connection was going to create something.
Oh, that's cool. And that was about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think 2 years ago, like probably about the summer of 2020, maybe a bit before, like June 2020, around there.
Pre-COVID?
After COVID. It was just once COVID had started.
Post-COVID. Oh, yeah. Wow. Post-COVID bros. Oh, that's cool. Remember there was a time before COVID? That's crazy,
right?
What
was that?
Yeah, I don't even believe it existed. So since then you've done a bunch, right? You've joined me on the Creating Clients course. You've done accomplishment coaching's work. You're joining us for the Forge this coming September. Maybe we'll see how this goes today. Maybe this will be like, fuck it, I'm out. But currently you're enrolled for it. And how did you and David meet? How did you guys become acquainted?
So I run a community on Facebook for men called the No More Mr. Nice Guy community, and David joined through. I'm guessing, David, you found it somewhere on Facebook, or maybe through Robert Glover's newsletter, and we just started having conversations through that group, and I think that was sort of the starting point of it all.
Cool. For those of you who don't know, Robert Glover is an author who wrote a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy, which is ultimately, I would assert, about the divine masculine stuck in the second stage of practice. The second stage of practice is where the masculine energy, not men, but the masculine energy, the part of our energy internally, which is directive, linear, purpose-driven, penetrative, poignant, that energy gets caught in becoming overly concerned with everything outside of themselves. So as men, typically we get very like, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to rock the boat. How do I make sure you're all right? Blah, blah, blah. And in that, it's better than that toxic first stage masculine practice, which is like, fuck you, I'm going to do whatever I want. And, that leads to violence, a whole bunch of bad things. But at the second stage, whilst it's better than the first, it's not awakened. There's a degree to which it's sort of like, where does my leadership lie in this? And we become floppy. And so some of you watching may be familiar with that experience, either in yourself or in other people. And it's not to vilify it, but Robert's book is sort of an invitation to start to notice that. And I don't know about your guys' experience, but I've noticed good and bad comes out of his book. Like the good is when it invites people, men, to transcend, to take the step towards a third stage of practice. Sometimes what I see happen is men read that and they go back to the first stage practice. They just become more selfish. Like, fuck this, I'm just going to be for myself. And it's like, great. All right, you're on your journey, as we all are, but maybe there's a next level for you to go instead of just doing whatever you want. So cool. That's the book, right? Your group is referencing that book. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Got it. Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's see. It's 10:24. I think we're gonna probably. I'm gonna give you loose times, Andrew, because I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm gonna jump in, and who knows, right? We may end up digressing or whatever, but we're gonna aim to finish around the bottom of the hour, so 11:30, and then a brief debrief. And anyone watching, please feel free to add your comments, questions, anything you're noticing as we go. And at this point, Andrew, I'm basically going to turn the reins over to you. Is there any questions you have or anything you want to check in with me before I hand it to you?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. All right. I'm going to turn off my mic, but I'll leave my camera on just so you can see me here. And off you guys go.
All right. I'm just gonna pin David on my screen. Oh, I think that works. Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Happy Friday.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks for being willing to do this, for creating this opportunity for both of us. I really appreciate it. And before we kind of dive into the coaching session, I just want to check with you. Is there anything that you need to say or just, kind of release out into the world just to sort of feel just whole coming into the session?
No, I think I'm good. I'm ready to jump in.
All right. Okay. So we've got just over an hour today. And in our time together, what would you like to create today? What's coming up for you?
Yeah. So we've been IMing a little bit about an issue, and it's really just stalling out in my own coaching practice that I want to create. And I just feel really, really stuck. It's interesting because you sent me the book by Steve Hardison, right? The Ultimate Coach. And coincidentally, I was actually doing my morning reading, and it got to talking about internal commitment. And I don't think I'm internally committed. Like, that really resonated with me. Like, I'm not achieving in this space. I'm going backwards. And I know we've talked a little bit before about how, you get some improvement in certain areas, and it's like, okay, I'm comfortable. And I think I've stalled. So I think I need some help around action, taking action, being internally committed and taking action. Does that help?
Okay. So first of all, I hear you. I mean, I just hear you in that place of that, I can imagine that, there's been progress that's been happening, and all of a sudden you've kind of hit this place where there's no movement happening, and sort of what comes from that. So I hear you. And when you think of that word, internal commitment, what does that mean to you? What struck you about that?
It means to me following through on the commitments that I make to myself.
Mm-hmm. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, just being true to myself and my own word. That was something that really struck me with that book, was just the power of saying what you're going to do and then doing that come hell or high water. So that was an introspective point for me. Like, yeah, even little times where, I'm not clear with people and say, yeah, we should do lunch. Let's get together next week. And I have no intention of getting together next week. I don't have time or whatnot, but I don't say that. And that really got me looking at what's the commitment to my word, and then looking at the commitment to my word to myself. Like, when I declare something, I'm saying it's getting done.
Okay. So as you look out into the future, the place that you want to create into, where do you see the relevance here?
So I think the relevance is that I'm not following through on what I want to follow through on.
And what
Like
would
I've
you,
just
yeah,
kind
go
of,
ahead.
yeah, just kind of gone off that path. And some of it is a rationalization and some of it is true. Right now, my full-time job, I'm filling in for somebody that left too. So I've got, double the workload, but I think that's a little bit of an excuse of saying I don't have time.
Okay. So I'm still not clear on, so I hear sort of the aspect of what you don't want, but what do you actually want in this? Like if you actually looked at the future of your life, like how would you want commitment to go?
Yeah. I would want, I guess I would want my word to myself to be true. So I guess there's a little bit of self-lying there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's weird because I went from, highly motivated, lots of creation in my life and getting stuff done to just a weird point of like very little creation in certain areas. Other areas, I'm still doing what I need to do and making things happen, but just kind of hit a lull.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if we look back at the time when you felt like you were in an action, moving things forward, what was your commitment like then?
Commitment was really, really high. I mean, I was doing what I needed to do, highly involved, energetic, man, I'm all in. And now it's like, meh, I can put that off. I can do something different. I can watch a little TV, that kind of stuff has been creeping in. So it's been a wake up call for me to introspect on that and say, I'm way off track here. I am not at all doing what I need to do and what I promised myself I would do.
Mm-hmm. So what is the change that's happened here for you? If we look at the past, where you were in action, you were committed, feeling good about it, to now where it sounds like you want that commitment, but there's a different feeling to it. There's a bit of a stall to it. Like what's happened in that shift for you?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. And I haven't really been able to get clear on that and identify that, right? There's clearly a lack of propulsion in that area. Like I'm not being pulled to it. I think there's an aspect of things are going well, are going okay, where I'm comfortable. And then maybe there's an aspect of fear there, but I don't really feel that. But I mean, something extinguished the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to get back on track and get that back.
Yeah. So what are you noticing just in the conversation that we're having so far?
I mean, I'm definitely worried about it. I'm not happy with it. I don't like who I'm being right now in that area. I liked it much better when I was all in, all energy, fully aggressive. I've noticed that it's starting to spill out in other areas like physical fitness. Used to work out consistently once a day, and now it's every other day, etc. I'm noticing a lot. I mean, how many times have I said introspection, which is a pattern we've identified, right? I got to go inside and fix it. And not trusting in the action, maybe. Not just going forward and say, hell with it. I'm just going to do it.
Mm-hmm. So if I was to reflect back to what I've seen or what I've heard, is that before, when you were in action, we're fully committed, it was sort of like a blind trust. You were just moving forward, nothing was getting in your way. And it sounds like there's been a shift here where you're pausing, slowing down a bit, thinking about what's going on, and there's a bit of a fear, a bit of a concern of like, oh, if I continue with these actions, like, is it actually going to work?
Yeah, no, that's good. That sums it up. That's interesting. You brought up trust. Like that may be an issue, and I know I've struggled with that. Just trusting the situation and surrendering to it. Right, this is where I'm at, and moving forward and accepting to where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and part of me thinks it's got to be perfect. Like creating, like I started doing some Instagram posts, just doing it and creating, and then committed to once a week, and that happened for a whopping 2 weeks in a row, and then fell back. And but that was a big eye opener for me about just trust. Just get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect, and just trusting it to be in that space. Yeah. So maybe it's just self-doubt. Maybe that's where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not having confidence in myself and starting to doubt myself more, and then pulling back from it.
So from this place, from what you're seeing, where would you like to go for the rest of our conversation? What's coming up for you for us to explore?
Okay, I'm going to jump in there before you answer that, David. And we'll just put a pin in that question. It's a great question. So how's it going so far, Andrew? For you, like genuinely?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it feels a little bit slower to distinguishing the coaching request. It kind of has felt that it could go in multiple places. I think the thing is but something is coming. And I think just sort of being with that something is coming. And I would say, yeah, at this point, I'm sort of like, oh, I'm a little bit confused, but not. And this is where I've kind of come to this point where I'm putting it back to David to sort of see where he wants to go with what he shared to this point.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're doing a great job holding, like, it's apparent that you're comfortable with your client's lack of clear direction. Like, I don't feel this urgency in you, like, okay, but what? Or, you're really like holding a lot of space. You're really allowing a lot of David's exploration, which is really awesome. And you did a great job at the start, kind of setting up foundation with your client, right? Like, is there anything you'd need before we set up, before we start in, as opposed to just diving in, which is really easy to do in this setting, to dive in. Like, well, I'm scared to do this. Let's fucking start doing it, right? So you're doing great. You're holding space really beautifully, and I can feel your groundedness. And you've asked some great questions. Like David started, he read Steve Hardison's book, and then this word internal commitment or internal stance, I can't remember exactly what it was. It doesn't really matter, but like it really landed for him. And you asked, like, what does that mean to you? So rather than you making an assumption that the same thing that David's saying, I assume you've read the same book that you gave to him, rather than just sort of, okay, it means something to him, let's jump off. You kind of invited him to elaborate further on that. This is really good, right? You're allowing your client's process into the space. What do you notice about the conversation as far as commitment is concerned? Commitment's kind of like the piece we're talking about right now, right? Fair. So what do you notice about that?
Well, I think what I'm hearing is that when almost like when if I was to say to it that like basically in the starting phase of this, it's new and exciting, in launching a coaching business, that momentum is there. It's kind of continuing forward. And it sounds like when, like there's been some experience of it, and now we've kind of reached a place where the commitment is wavering because there's almost like experience behind it now. Like, is this going to work? Is what I'm committed to actually going to work? And that's sort of, that's the piece that I'm hearing at this point.
And are you hearing that because David said it, or is that sort of like wires you're connecting yourself, or where is that coming from?
I would say that, well, just from what I'm hearing and piecing sort of the pattern that's playing out, from what I heard is that, I mean, there's a few things that I've heard, but like really that there's this spot where he's gotten comfortable here. There's a bit of a lull. He's stalled out. It's impacting the multiple areas of his life. And it's where we're at in the conversation is still kind of on the coaching business itself. So I realize I'm sort of speaking about it a lot, but it does, the place that I'm sort of feeling at from what I've heard is that it's the trust piece.
Okay, and do you remember the question I asked you?
We'll come back to it.
I'll let you know, Adam, when we're going to speak to that question. So what I heard you sort of said, it almost sounded like you were describing what you're seeing in terms of your client's experience, which is they started something, it's exciting, it's novel. Fuck yeah, I'm going to do whatever, anything. I'm going to climb Everest. I'm going to go to the store and buy all that equipment. This is fun. And then it's like, oh crap, I've started to do it, and it's not always fun. And there's like we're checked. Our feet are checked. I heard you describing that as what you're seeing with David. Did I hear you right before I say anything more? Is that what you had said?
Can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah. So basically when I asked you, what do you notice about commitment? You said, I noticed that for David, it's like he started something, and at first there was sort of like some, yeah, I'm going to do this, some excitement. But then as time's gone on and he's kind of been confronted with what it's requiring, that excitement is left a little bit. That's what I heard you say. And I'm checking to make sure that I've heard you accurately. Is that right?
Somewhat. I mean, yeah, okay, I'll go with that.
Well, don't take my word for it. I'm just trying to make sure that what I heard you say is what I heard you say. Is there some piece where you're like, yeah, but I didn't say that? That's not accurate.
No, it's almost like there's two parts of it. Like, yeah, there is definitely that part. I guess the thing that I heard in that is that like it almost feels like, and I might be repeating myself, that in that first stage, the commitment was easy. The trust was easy, just kind of move forward. And now it's sort of hitting a bit of a roadblock, and now that's where it's stalling out. And so
right,
and naturally in that, like the momentum is kind of dropped a bit.
Yeah. So here's the question I'm asking you. Now that we've established that, I'm coming back to the question I initially asked you, which is, did you hear David say that, or is that dots you connected and are like, oh, here's what's happening?
Yeah, I would say it's probably some dots that I've put into the conversation.
Perfect. That's what I was present to as well. Went on a nice roundabout journey, but we got here.
For sure.
So perfect. That's what I was like, and what you see may be totally accurate. Like that would make a lot of sense what you're describing. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that it's almost like you are kind of like, okay, I've got an idea of what's happening. And just like, but we haven't heard that from the client yet. The client has not reached that conclusion themselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You answered all of that in response to my question, which was, what are you noticing as far as commitment is concerned? Remember that? Here's what I'm noticing. not because it's right, it's just what I'm noticing, is that right now for David, commitment is existing as a concept that sort of permeates everything. It's like, I'm not that committed. To what? Everything. As a human being, as a person on this, sorry, I'm getting excited and having fun, so I hope you can join along. Otherwise, this will be misery for you. So there's sort of, can you feel that though, right? There's like I'm just not committed. And then there's all of these places. And
Right.
Currently the conversation exists a little bit in this state of, well, how do I be more committed? That's so broad, right? And the nature of human beings is that over here we're going to be committed, and over there our commitment's going to be flagging, and then over there we're going to be starting a new commitment, and over here we're going to be winding one down, and like all of that sort of stuff. So to tie this back to what you had said initially, I'm not totally clear on what the coaching request is. We have a sense of what David wants ish, which is he wants to create a deeper inner kind of stand of commitment. But what we're not clear on is, what does he want to leave this conversation today with? Right? So that's a way you can narrow it down as opposed to keeping it broad. And we're also not clear where do you want to be more committed in your life? And what that'll do is it'll take it from this concept that exists in our mind and kind of up in the clouds or on a chalkboard and bring it down into the world of reality. And the beauty of when you start to do that is then David's going to have to, like, you and David are going to have to actually look at what's getting in the way of commitment, as opposed to it just sort of being like, oh, maybe it's that I have self-doubt. Totally. All of us, right? Why aren't you doing the thing? Self-doubt, the end. But if that was all that was required for us as coaches, we would be out of jobs very quickly. So there's just deeper to go. And the way we get deeper is by getting specific. Where do we want to look at this thing? And then we can start to ask questions, explore what is getting in the way, and go deeper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you see a path to go from here? Like, am I just leaving you adrift, or are you kind of like, okay, got it, I'm ready to go back in?
I think the place that I'm still not fully clear on myself is the actual coaching request.
Yeah.
In, I know like the word commitment has come up a lot, but I'm not clear if that's where David actually wants to go at this point. It could be something different.
Great.
But that's where I see the potential here for sure.
Awesome. Sounds like you've got it. So I'll hand it back over to you and interrupt you at my leisure.
Sounds good. All right. Okay, David. Well, thanks for hanging in that that charade that just happened there. So I will put it back to you. Where would you like to go with our conversation today? Like, what's coming up for you as the direction you want to go?
Yeah, and it's been kind of gray, but that's interesting. I think it is. I don't want to use the term committed again, but maybe not commitment, but taking action, right? Having a plan, executing on the plan, come hell or high water. I need to get back to that.
And is there a specific area of your life that you would want to focus on?
Yeah, I think there's two. There's two that are evident to me. And hopefully more will be fixed if I'm taking action on those. But one is the physical aspect. I need to get back to working out every day, no matter what time. The other one is driving my coaching path for what I want to do in the future, driving that forward and taking action regularly on that every day. So action every day.
Okay. So we've got two topics here: physical fitness and the coaching business. And the place I'd invite you to is just to choose a path for one of them for now, knowing that the other one might come up at some point. But if there was a focus on one of those, which one would you choose?
Yeah, coaching business is more important. I can get fat and lazy. That's all right.
Okay. And potentially there might be some structures that we can create through this that could focus on the physical fitness as well. So we'll kind of keep it off, on the side. But okay, so taking action and having a plan for your coaching business. Does that feel like that feels like the place for us to focus on for our conversation?
Yeah, I think that's top priority.
Okay. So what would have to be moved forward for you in this? Like, where would we have to look in terms of taking action and creating this plan for your coaching business?
Well, I think the first step is revisiting the project design, which I hate. I hate projects. I hate structure. It's just all supposed to fall together, man. But I think that's it. I need to get a lay of the land of where I'm at right now, and laser focused on what I need to do to get there and where that is. Well, you asked me that question too, which kind of stumped me. It made me look into myself. I was like, well, what do you want to create here?
Mm-hmm.
I need to get really clear on that one. And then I need to create action steps to go there. And then I need to be disciplined enough and rely on discipline to just do it and get there. Does that help?
Okay. So, well, let me reflect it back to you. So I hear that the pathway to move this forward for you is to relook at project design, to really get clarity around this, and bring in, more discipline. So
Yeah.
it is kind of interesting because that feels like as you're saying, like this is the pathway forward, and yet there's resistance, right? Resistance to project design, resistance to sort of that future vision or taking action into the future vision. So can you share more about that?
Yeah. Just the discipline from a project has always been a struggle for me. It's just been getting clear on it, writing it down. Like, I know the benefits of it. I can speak to the benefits of it. I do with my own employees, right? But it's for some whatever reason. That kind of structure is tough for me. It's really, really hard, but I think I need to muscle through it and just do it, because we're seeing the ripple effect. And then I think that's, the physical part of it is a ripple effect of just where I am. Like, I'm probably not happy with what I'm producing right now and where I'm going, and it's just starting to spread around. But I appreciate the projects because, we've worked together for a while. Me, my initial action is to go inward and figure out what's wrong with me. What the hell's going on? And then I spend too much time there instead of just saying, who cares what's wrong with me right now? I just need to keep doing and let that work itself out through my actions. I think that's where I need to go.
Okay. So one of the things that I hear, one of the things that you shared was that with projects that, it's easy to put it down on paper, and and so it's just sort of like, that's the easy part, but the actual action taking that's required, like that's the tough part. That's the part that requires discipline. And I'm curious, like, what might be let me take a step back. What might be a different way of looking at project design? If you're coming from a place of like, I've got to be disciplined and this is tough, what else might be a way of setting up that structure so it's something that's enjoyable and fun for you?
Okay, let me jump in. It's a great question, Andrew. You guys are both doing awesome. Thank you both for everything you're bringing to this conversation, intentional and unintentionally. So Andrew, where does David want to be by the end of this call?
we still don't have that defined yet.
Right. And you've not asked it yet, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So just you're starting to go down a really juicy area, but you're getting into coaching, and we're not yet clear where he wants to be by the end of the call. So you just want to make sure, like, what'll happen is you'll end up in a coaching call because there's no clear place you're trying to get to. It's like, I always use the metaphor, it's like playing pool without any holes in the table. So you're hitting those balls and they're moving around, but it's like, but to what end? Where are we trying to get to? We're coaching sort of, but you hit the ball and it goes there, and then you can hit the ball again and it goes there, and you hit the ball again and it goes there, and you're like, oh wait, there's no destination. I can just coach this forever without actually resolving something, which can start to be a little therapeutic, the conversations you can find yourself in. So very important at this point, especially, to start to be like, okay, we've got some stuff on the table. Where do you want to end up by the end of this call? Clear on that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool beans. Okay. What do you notice about David and projects?
Like, sees the benefit of it, sees the benefit of it for his employees, and sort of like the pathway to fulfilling it is by being disciplined and putting in hard work, and that it's, you know, as he said, like, project design from that place then becomes frustrating. It doesn't become enjoyable. Yeah,
it's a bummer, hey? Like, so some of the things I notice is, first of all, like, David is like walking commitment. Like, the way he's described projects, I'm like, fuck projects. That sounds so boring and crappy. He was like, I hate structure, I hate projects, but let's do them. I'm like, shit, fuck that. I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. But he is willing. He will walk through that crappy mud to do it, right? So who we are dealing with, who we're in a conversation with, is someone who embodies commitment. And that's not a very fun way to live your life. You know, if this was not like a thing that you had to do to get from A to B, but instead we were looking at like the way David lives his life, this was all just a metaphor for how he lives his life. It's like, oh, the experience David probably has in life is, I got to do this thing and it's going to suck, but I'm willing to do it because then I won't have to keep doing it and I'll get somewhere. And hopefully there, I won't have to do stuff that sucks. Except the secret is he's going to have to do more stuff that sucks, because this is the way he's living his life. Can you kind of see that as you zoom out a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
And to his credit, he's willing. Lesser men would not be. So we don't want to sort of denigrate that. We want to hold that with reverence. It's amazing that he's willing to do it, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's a better, less shitty, less heavy way that this can go. That's where you're starting to ask questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I notice is, you said David sees the value of projects. I would assert he intellectually kind of knows they're a good idea, but here in his heart, not really. So he gets it on an intellectual level, but actually I would assert, like, what I'm hearing is projects suck and I'll do them because I have to. That's kind of his relationship to projects. It was so funny. I really liked this. You were talking and he went, I appreciate the projects. There's like a big sigh accompanying with it. And it's like, no, you don't. Not at all. So what's happening is there's a part of him that holds a project like something he should do, but he's not bought into it with his heart. Following me so far?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're asking him a question, which is, what is a way that it could be fun, right? What is a different way that it doesn't have to be that? Before David can leave this place which is like, projects suck, but I got to do them, he's got to get there. Right now, he's engaged with you in this conversation about, like, he's trying to convince himself that it's good and he should just do them, and he just needs to muscle through and blah, blah, blah. And in fact, before he can create any new relationship, he really has to sit in the existing one, which is like, yeah, projects suck, they're boring, I don't like them, they're blah, blah, blah. And that's the conversation to be in with him first. So we can start to distinguish, like, oh, wow, no wonder projects suck. Here's my whole story about them, right? So he's actively trying to dismiss that truth for himself right now. And our job as coaches is to allow that truth to be seen. That's what all of this stuff in us wants. It wants to be seen. And once it can be seen, it can go away. That's the magic for life, really. We just want to be seen.
Yeah.
So your instincts are spot on, right? You're seeing this relationship. You can feel it, I think, is how it is occurring over here. Like you're present to it, and you're like, oh, well, that's definitely not going to work. We got to go away. But it's sort of like before we can leave it, we really got to get cozy with it and really let it be beautiful. So where does he want to get to? Where does he want to end up? And then hang out here and really have it just make so much fucking sense to you. No wonder. It's not that you're not committed. It's that this sucks. That's not a function of a lack of commitment. It's a function of like, we don't, as humans, tend to want to do stuff that sucks. Cool. Does that give you some places to move forward from?
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate the feedback, because I think that this is really spotlighting the places of growth for me too. So I'll throw that in.
Great. You're doing great. So I'm going to hand it back to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So if we come back to the places that you would like to move forward, you've spoken to project design, getting more clarity, and having, creating more discipline. And how will we know, like, when we get to the end of the conversation, what will need to be in place for you to actually move this forward?
Yeah, I'm thinking an action plan, right? I need to have a date set of, I'm going to revisit project design. I'm going to do it right now and time block this out. And then further commitments from there. I think that's what it would look like.
Okay. So having some time blocks, having some structure moving forward.
Yeah, and a date.
Okay.
Of, I'm going to revisit project design and update it and have it done by here.
Got it. So let's say we get this action plan in place. We've got these dates. We've got the action plan in place, and you've got this clear date in place. Like, what does that actually give you? What do you benefit from putting these structures in place?
Forward momentum. I mean, I'm doing something and I'm moving towards the goal. And steps along each way versus sitting down and not moving towards the goal, which is kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Or it's term my mom used to love, half-assing it.
Okay. So if we look at the bigger picture in terms of your project with regards to the coaching business, like, what are some of the key milestones that we're looking at that there's currently no movement towards?
Yeah, I think that's it. Revisiting milestones. I think revisiting, well, the vision's clear. Like, I get the vision, where I want to go. I think it is just the milestones and setting up the actual milestones and then smaller action steps to get to the milestones. And being more consistent with that, number one. And then number two, the hard part, actually doing the milestones or doing the action steps.
So let me check in. Are you clear on the actual milestones that you have right now, or? Yeah.
No, I need to revisit that and really put it out there. I think I've been gray in that area. Like, I've got a basic list of here's what I need to do, but I haven't parted it out to say, prioritized it and say, this is important. This is step one. This is when I'm going to do it by then. So it's kind of this nebulous blob out there. Like, I have all this stuff to do and no path to get there, which is leading me where I'm at, where I'm not getting there. Yeah, that makes sense.
So is that a place you'd like to visit? Is these milestones, getting some clarity on them now?
Yeah, let's do that. And if we want to be more specific, I mean, if we want to start with one, I think the interesting experience was creation, media creation, like getting myself out there is a good place to start.
Okay. So what would
So where are you guys going now, Andrew?
we are putting some structure in place for to aim to where, to basically we're putting structure in place so he has a milestone to work towards.
Right. And what is his relationship to structure? What's his relationship to projects?
Not enjoyable.
Right. It's going to suck, right? But he's willing to do
Yeah.
it. So how do you imagine this part is going to go?
I think it really depends. I mean,
But if you were to take a guess.
Well, from what he just shared, it felt like one of the things from what he just shared, like the milestones weren't actually clear. So what I heard was that it's sort of like he's in the gray zone right now.
What about my question?
I mean, the question makes sense, and well, I guess really that.
No, hold on. So do me a favor. Take a breath. You're doing great. Just remind yourself you're doing great. Take a nice deep breath. Anytime a question makes sense, that's dangerous, because questions aren't designed to make sense. Questions are designed to invite us into inquiry, right? So it feels a little bit in this moment that I'm asking you a question, like, no, but like, don't do that, because I'm clear why I want to go down this path with the client. So it's okay, but I'm going to stand just to help you see a little bit more other than what you might be seeing in this moment. So his structure or his relationship to structure is like, it kind of sucks, but I'm willing to do it, right? And I would probably guess, I would need more time, but generally the way we be in one place is the way we be in other places. So if for David, the relationship to structure is, it kind of sucks, but I'm willing to do it, I would imagine that life also has a fair bit of, it kind of sucks, but I'm willing to do it. You can create a whole bunch of stuff in life from that. Like, you can make a lot of results. It's just that the trouble is you get all these great results, but a lot of your life is kind of sucky, and you're willing to have it be sucky. It's okay. It's just not the grand prize we're really going for, right? With me so far? So given that his relationship to structure is that it kind of sucks, but he's willing to do it. And now the conversation we're engaging in is about creating structure, right? So he said, I want to leave with a plan. And I think that's why you're going like, great, so let's look at milestones, let's do that. But it's worth considering that the thing in the way of him creating a plan that he can really empower is that relationship to structure. That's the thing to actually look at. Because what's about to happen in this coaching conversation with you as coach and him as client is that it's going to suck, but he's willing to do it with you. And at the end, he'll be, thank you for helping me do the thing that sucked, but ultimately help me be willing. And there's not going to be any breakthrough and commitment there, right? Commitment from that place is like, we do what we have to do as long as we're willing to put up with X amount of suck. But once we get to like Y amount of suck, we're like, fuck this. I don't want to do that anymore. It sucks. Does that make sense?
It does. And I mean, there was definitely a place that I was going to potentially look at from defining the structure. I guess the place that and I appreciate it. I guess the confusion of where I'm at is that, the measures, the areas of success that we were talking about for that David defined was the action plan with project design, and the date to revisit, like his sort of structure to revisit project design in his week. And so the feeling that comes to me in that is that by not visiting that, I'm sort of stepping over that, what he's looking for in this moment. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what's coming up for me.
Yeah, I really get it. So the challenge in this is like the client's job is to bring, here's what I want to create. The thing is that the client has an idea in their mind, and here's how I know, here's how I need to get there. And you and David both are sharing that a little bit right now. You're a little bit in the weeds with him. We're like, yeah, we got to create a milestone. Like we got to create some actions and plans. The thing is, I would be willing to bet all of my money in the world that what David is looking for out of life is not whatever kind of result gets created from it kind of sucks, but I'm willing to do it. Like, I just don't believe that's what he really wants from life, nor from this moment. I believe in his willingness to do that. I believe that this man is such commitment that he will go through that agony to get there, but I don't think that's what he really wants with his heart. And so what we can do as coaches, sort of like hold, okay, that's the coaching request. He wants to leave an action plan, but before he can create an action plan, let me take one step back. I also believe that David wants an action plan that he will follow and do stuff with, rather than just like, yay, I got an act. Here's my action plan, throw it out. Fucking ate it, but I did it. I got the kudos, right? He wants an action plan that he's going to take action towards, that he's going to move forward, because what he really wants is that life. Yeah. And so what you're actually doing when you start to look at, okay, got it. So you want to create an action plan, but tell me, you've already said you hate projects, but you're willing to do them. Like, how is this likely to go? And you're starting to look at what's predictable. And this might not be a conversation that finishes in one go. So your job as coach is to work with the client, like, where do we want to go? And in the coaching conversation, you might get like 4 feet towards that and not get there by the end of the conversation. But you're moving towards a destination that's been set by the client. That's why the coaching request matters, right? So maybe what you do with David in this call is help him see like, oh shit, no wonder I always stop doing this stuff. It's not that I lack commitment. It's not that I aren't commitment. It's that I'm trying to like force myself to do something I don't want to do in my heart. And if he can start to see that, then the next time you guys meet, he can start to like, possibly rejig that relationship, and then start to create a new relationship to structure, and then create an action plan that he's really lit up by, and then actually take actions towards it. So you don't have to get him all the way there. What your job as coach to have a bit of altitude and to see, oh, this is the thing currently in the way of what he really wants. And then to gently bring that conversation. And if you're ever like, hey, I don't know if this is the thing, David, is the conversation we're in right now, do you feel this is serving you to move towards your coaching request? So that's how you can make sure it's not just you driving an agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Got what you need for now?
I think so.
See you in 30 seconds.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. So you've got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
So David, as you heard, we got about 15 minutes left. And yeah, I want to check in with you. What are you taking? Actually, let me pull back. Well, even in the share that just came, what are you noticing for yourself in terms of your relationship, or just your relation to project design?
When you say just share, what was that? What was that comment?
Well, we could have a conversation about putting the action plan in place and, what that looks like. And how do you think that will go for you if we do that?
I think it'll spur me on to taking more action. But will it have continual propulsion? Or am I going to go back in this space where I don't want to do this and hit that resistance again? And I think it's more likely I'll if history repeats itself, I'll do it for a while, and then I'll probably stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. So in knowing that, what do you see as the pathway forward?
I think I need to find that passion again that I had before, that energy, excitement, and passion again. I think I need to revisit that. Because if it's on my to-do list, generally it's getting done. So I think maybe revisiting the vision, and I know we've done that a couple of times before, right? We seem to get to this point to where it starts to dwindle off, and I've got to go back to the vision and get passionate again and about that, and figure out, why is this something that I'm driving for? If I have to go through all these actions that I'm not having fun, like project design, etc., what is the end goal that's propelling me forward? I don't know. That's where my head's at right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you think back to some of the conversations that we've had, even some of the reflections that you've shared from coworkers, like, what is that passion for you? What's that thing that really excites you about this work?
Yeah, it's the ability to make a real impact in people's lives, like helping them achieve lives that they didn't even consider were possible because they're stuck in a pattern, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the action step. Maybe we shouldn't do an action plan. Maybe I really need to get back on fire and in touch with that. How does this relate to, how does this relate to my purpose and what I want to bring to the world, so that I'm actually propelled towards that end? And then, I can do the steps necessary with that goal in mind. This is what I want to drive to. And this is why, I think more important, this is why I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not clear on the why. I've lost the why. Now it's just a goal.
Mm.
I have a goal, but I don't have a why behind it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you're sharing that, like, I don't have that why, but it does, just in that statement that you shared, it really came out. And I've seen you connected to this place many, many times. So what might be a way that you could stay connected to your why, so that it's always present with you?
Yeah, I know we've done some visualization. I need to do that again, I think, and go back to committed on it. That's kind of lost its way too, right? That's another thing I haven't been doing, is like daily practices, really envisioning of what that life looks like, and then maybe focus it more on the impact of it. Like, I do visualization for the life I want to create, which is fantastic, but I don't know if I really connect the impact part of it, which is actually the full driver of what I'm trying to do. It's not necessarily for me. There's a big piece of that, right? I get to live a life that's a little more exciting than I do now, achieving a bigger goal, but it's that bigger excitement about helping others live that life. I think that's the core driver for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun part.
can you share more about that fun part? Like, what is it that's actually fun and enjoyable and keeps you like in process with this thing?
Yeah, I think it's really generating results, seeing results generated in people's lives and people's lives change. That's my driver.
Okay. Do you see a practice to take on from here?
Yes. Yeah, that was weird. So visualization, right? Visualizing, doing theater of the mind, etc., making sure that I'm connected to that bigger picture. And what was weird, what came up is service to other people. And what showed up was doing some sort of community service. Like that's a big driver for me, is being in service to others. So it's weird that showed up. I don't know if that's a motivator for me that would keep me going and being service to others. And maybe that's the bigger picture of being in service to others and helping them change their lives. Are there more ways to keep that momentum going than what I'm doing, which will drive on what I am trying to build to be in service of other people's lives? And maybe that's part of the stall too, is I'm kind of doing that, but I got a full-time job. And so am I really making the impact that I want to make? And all these interim steps that I need to do to get there are not directly having that impact in my mind, right? This is something I need to do. I need to do this and put it out there. I need to get on social media more. I need to do this, that, and the other thing. But those things don't make a direct impact that I can see or that I've been paying attention to get to that, hey, I'm helping change people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, like it sounds like okay, so how would you empower that? This aspect of being service everywhere. Where might be a first step that you could look at that?
I think I need to do some community service. Yeah, I think that's a good first step. I think I need to research some community service opportunities and get out there and do that and have that impact so that I'm expressing that part of me regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that connection. Like that's the piece that I really hear, is that like being of service, not just in your coaching business, but in the world as a whole. So so you're saying that first step is to do some research. Is there a specific area that you would want to do community service in?
I've done some around local shelters, and that's something I'm passionate about, is people who need help and are out on the street, etc. So that's probably where that is where I'll go.
Okay.
I won't put a probably in there.
So what would be the first step, just so we can get some clarity there?
Yeah, I think it's reconnecting with the shelters and setting up some time to serve.
Okay. So, and when will you do that by? When will you take that first step?
Contacting the shelter or serving?
You can choose.
Well, we're coming up to a new month, so let's do both. That's by our next coaching session, I will have decided where. And then in August, depending upon their schedule, do it. Volunteer.
Okay. So by next week, you'll decide, by Monday, you'll decide where, or sorry, that's August 8th. And
Yep.
then you'd mentioned when would be the date that, okay, so you've decided where you're going to go by August 8th. And when will you have done the first session or the first session with the service there?
Let's
Shelter.
do at the latest end of the month.
Which day?
I don't know. I'm a little bit hesitant to put a date out there because I don't know what opportunities are, but can we do by last day of August?
Okay. So I want to check in with you. Is there any other things that you see from our conversation today to practice, be with?
No, I like that direction. It's interesting, and because I came here wanting to get an action plan in place and move forward with it. But I think we touched on the bigger issue, which is I'm just not expressing currently what I'm doing, not feeling like I'm expressing that part of myself of serving others, which is the primary purpose for me moving in the direction that I'm moving into.
Yeah. Are you open to one more practice?
Sure.
A place that I'd have you look is exactly what you're speaking to, is just where can you bring more fun and just enjoyment to these things that you're planning out. So just noticing where you want to put like structures in place and like the focus is on getting the task done, but actually like almost being with like, what is the actual enjoyment out of this? What is the actual benefit that I'll receive in doing these things? What do you take from that?
Yes, I can do that. And that kind of makes sense because right now what I'm doing is not fun. It's just getting it done. And lately not getting it done because it's not fun.
So the place that I'd invite you to in that is maybe there's nothing even to do, just being with where can the joy, the excitement come in these things. What do you think the benefit of that might be?
What comes to mind immediately is just propulsion, right? It just feels like I'm pushing myself and not getting pulled into the area.
Okay. So as we wind down for today, how did we do? What are you taking away from our conversation?
I went a different direction than I expected when I first came in, right? I was kind of looking for a kick in the ass and to give a commitment and to say, all right, here's my next step that I need to do. And here's step 2 and here's step 3, which we got some steps, but it went in a different direction, right? I think it kind of hit to a little bit deeper on my being and what I need to do to have that propulsion versus being constantly pushing myself in that direction.
Did you get what you needed?
Yes. Yeah, I like where we went.
Yeah. Anything missing, disempowering, or incomplete?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so willing to complete here?
Yeah.
Okay. David, who would you like to be acknowledged for?
Well, we talked a little bit about, I think, my desire or core to be service of others. So let's go there. In service of others.
Anything else you see? Anything else you'd like to be acknowledged for?
no, but I'm open if you would like to.
Yeah, I really do want to acknowledge you for service, for that real beacon of light that you bring to the world, how it lights you up to be connected to others, to help transform the lives of others. We can see it in the creation of your coaching business. And I think what's really come out in our conversation today is that the place that really lights you up is being of service to the world. So whether that's the shelter, whether that's through your coaching business, whether that's going to restaurants with friends, that like you get to be that beacon. And that really feels like the place that lights you up. So thanks for bringing that, and thanks for allowing, us to be with that, because that is truly a different way of creation in all this. I really want to acknowledge you for your willingness to just bring your heart and that real desire to look at this in a different light, to be willing to say like, yeah, project design, it's kind of sucks right now, and I'll do it, I'm committed to doing it, but like allowing yourself to be open to like there is another way of coming at it as well, and that all of the ways can be okay, but like allowing yourself to just say like, yeah, this is how I want, this is what I want to bring more of into my life. So I really want to acknowledge you for all of that great work.
Great, thank you.
Nice work, both of you. Thank you, David, for really modeling being client, like just here's what's showing up, and allowing yourself to be supported. So often one of the parts I find most challenging when I'm working with my coach is like my ego, the part of me designed to like get love, be safe, do right by the world. It tries to like help. So to like try to help my coach me, and it's like, get out of there, you're messing everything up, ego. So thanks for just, really modeling being client, and beautiful work, Andrew. Really nice acknowledgement at the end. Great time management. And like some of the stuff I saw you really doing beautifully at the end was you really held a lot of space for David. There's a point where he sort of, I think it was as he was mentioning work with the shelter, or just like your passion, you're talking about David, and you, Andrew, just held the space, and he kind of like sat and was like, maybe that's the thing for me to do. So great job, not like, getting excited, because that can hook us. We get excited. We're like, oh shit, they're seeing the thing that I want them to see. Or they're seeing anything. Thank God. Finally, they're seeing a thing. And we want to jump in there. And you did a beautiful job sort of like holding that space for him in his process. A couple things you might kind of, as David's coach, keep your eye on going forward. So one, and you can practice this too, David, is like just listening for him talking about what needs to happen or what he needs to do. There's a lot of like, again, to David's tremendous credit, he's willing to do what needs to be done. And there's a time and place for that, but it's an automatic always on. That's the muscle that he just knows to use no matter what. And as we learn to listen growing up more and more to what we need to do, we stop being able to hear what we want to do. And the beautiful thing about this world, this life, is that it can be, we can create a thriving, incredible, and in fact, the most thriving, the most incredible, the most contributive life that we can create starts from what we want, from our desire, letting our heart lead us, as opposed to our head figuring out what do I have to do? Shut up, heart. I'm trying to work on what needs to be done, right? So just notice when he's saying that, and you can notice that too, David, just listening to yourself, like, oh, here I am talking about what needs to happen. I need to make a project design. I need to blah, blah, blah. So in this conversation, moved away from a project plan, moved away from action steps, all of that sort of stuff, right? But I want to be clear that there's a point, like a project design does assist. It's structure, and structure helps us. We need scaffolding to be put up so we can build a building, and then we take the scaffolding down. And so the breakthrough here is not just fuck project design forever because I don't like it and I'm only ever going to do stuff I enjoy. The breakthrough will come from, oh, here's something that would really serve me, and I don't my relationship to it is not currently one that has me enjoy it. How do I address the relationship so I can actually deeply fall in love with project design the same way I fall in love with whatever this other thing is? And that's not a should do. That's not something that David has to like, okay, next week I'm going to show up and I'm going to do that because I should. It's just that there's a point where this is a man up to big stuff in the world. And to create big stuff in the world, we need some structure. We need scaffolding. So there's going to be a point where that project design is the thing. And at that point, probably the first step is going to be to really look at the relationship to it and recreating that, such that David can have a totally different experience of designing projects, one where he feels held and like, oh shit, this actually sources my passion rather than pulls it down. And then I got to like build the fire up so I can kind of be in balance. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is David's got a vision for a lot of this stuff, which is awesome. Great work, both of you working on that. What I'm curious about is whether David's vision includes a vision for how he experienced himself and life and the project as he was creating it. So a lot of people on my hunch, especially people like David, and I can be like this too, our vision's like, it's going to be so fucking cool when I get there. And there's not a word about the experience creating it. So it's like, yeah, if you were to write that last part, it'd be like, and it was absolute fucking misery, but I'm here now and it's great. But don't talk to me about that year where I was creating it. And we can write a vision that also includes like, throughout this year, this project lit me the fuck up. Like every time I felt like struggling, this actually, like my process going through this project actually filled me with more love and more excitement and more passion in my life. So that can be brought into the vision as well. And then as you support David going through that project, you keep your eyes on that for him too. Oh, hey, it seems like this is really dragging on and not being that much fun. Yeah, it's not, but I know I got to do it. Okay, well, let's hold on. Let's talk about that. Makes sense?
Absolutely.
Cool. I'm just going to read what Nadine asked in the comments because she asked a really great question. Then I want to check in with both of you and see if there's anything you guys would like to share about any of this process. So Nadine asked, how can David change his relationship to not liking structure and projects, and yet at the same time, he wants to do it? That was kind of what you were saying, David, right? You're like, I don't really like it, but I want to, or, you know. And my answer to her, which I'm just going to speak out loud, is that ultimately I would assert you don't want to do it. You, David, don't want to do the project design. You don't want that structure. Yeah. You feel you need it, and you're willing to do it from feeling you need to do it. That can change. But right now, your head is like, no, we want to do this. We want to do this. I definitely want to eat all of the spinach and none of the ice cream. But it's like, no, not really. And so anything you'd like to add to that, David?
No, I think you hit on an important part there. And I know Andrew's on the call and being videoed, so I know he's a little bit nervous, but it was interesting because we've talked a little bit about that. Like we touched on that. He has noticed my behavior of hunkering down. Like, this is gonna suck. Batten up the hatches. Yeah. Here we go, man. And going through it. And then the other thing he's noticed too is like lack of rewards. And so that came back to me. Yep, gonna suck. Made it. All right.
It sucked. I was right. Feels good.
Next suck.
Yes.
And there's no enjoyment there's very little enjoyment in the process.
It's almost a little like contribution from that place can be kind of like martyrdom, which is still a beautiful thing. You know, we get a lot from it. It's just, it's so much richer when someone is giving to us from a full cup of their own. So I'm really excited for you, David, to continue to unfold into this. The path you're on is one of like, and I love that smile too. Your smile's so infectious. And so I'm just really excited for all of the gifts you're already bringing into the world to then get like, to come from this place where you're just like, fuck that. I'm not going to do shit that's not fun. Life's going to be joyful and awesome. And because it's who you are. So thanks for letting us see that.
You.
Anything either of you two would like to say, anything you noticed, anything you want to speak to before we kind of wind down?
Yeah, I mean, I think for myself, it was quite an interesting coaching conversation because it feels like it was the perfect conversation that I wouldn't want to like, not that I wouldn't want to have it, but like, I guess like my way of being in coaching conversations is that I, kind of what like Adam, as you distinguished, like I'm able to flow with the coaching request and sort of question what's coming up as is. And yet this was the
Yeah.
perfect conversation where like those things were not happening. And so what it shows me is that like, again, it's just, I feel like it was a great conversation to really, it challenged me. It challenged me as the coach, and still staying in it, because it kind of felt like there were points where I'll be honest, I kind of got knocked out, and then I had to kind of come back in and be with it. And that was new for sure.
Nice. Thanks for letting yourself get knocked out. Like one of the almost like a tragedy was, well, ultimately the way I used to go about life as a lawyer was like impervious. So there was no knocking me off the course, but there was also like, you could come and cry in front of me. You could like say you hated me. None of it got in. I was impervious to life. And so I acknowledge you, Andrew, for all of your work and for like letting yourself be impacted in the moment. That's the first and foremost what our clients require, what the world requires from us. Because if we're unwilling to be impacted by the world, we're sure as hell not going to get the world to be willing to be impacted by us. The only option we're left with is like bulldoze it. And it's not really the game we're playing for. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Anything you'd like to say, David, by way of finishing up?
I'm sorry, Andrew.
I
I was a little surprised when he offered this opportunity for me, because I'm like, dude, I'm probably I'm my worst nightmare if I had to coach me. So nice job not going easy. And
I don't get that about you at all, David.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. No, I really appreciate you being willing to do this. It was amazing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you both for that beautiful, beautiful modeling. I'll just read a couple of our comments here, and then I'm going to talk about the Forge right quick. So Cami says, "Oof, I miss co-coaching. Thanks for bringing us here. Thank you guys for bringing us here. Beautiful work." Me too. And as coaches, we really benefit from it, because we just can't. Our clients have a vested interest in telling us we're doing a good job, because we want to be nice to each other. And so it's hard to get feedback like, really though, really, what am I missing? So that's awesome. Rocky, who is in the Forge with us this coming year, you'll meet him, Andrew, if you haven't already, is saying, I'm loving this, with his characteristic enthusiasm. Rich says, this is brilliant. Thank you for doing this, Adam, Andrew, and David. And Leo shared, this is all so relatable. I can relate to David's side and to Andrew's side as coach as well. So that's what we're going for, right? Is letting people see themselves in this. That's where the work can kind of land in more than just the three of us here. So really quick, this is part of what we do a lot of in the Forge. There's a lot of people coaching and us providing feedback so that we can do three things really. One, support them to hone the blade of coaching, to see more powerfully what they might not be seeing, to hear more powerfully what they might not be hearing, and to speak more powerfully what might not yet be getting communicated. Two, we're just supporting people to become more masterful at the art of helping people transform, supporting transformation in the world. And three, I think most exciting and most powerful, is we're supporting people to create their own transformation. So, that moment when I was reflecting to Andrew, like, take a breath, you're doing great. It seems like there might be a little, that's an opportunity for transformation, because and no pedestal. I do that all the time when someone wants to give me feedback. I'm like, yeah, shut the fuck up. I know what I'm doing. Thanks for your thought. But that's where my growth lies too, is being able to open in those moments. So all of that is what we do in the Forge. We start in this September. So it's about a month out. We have, I think, 4 seats available, and then it'll be sold out. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go to, I'll put the link in the chat here. It's Evergrowth Coaching. What is it? Evergrowth Coaching / the-Forge. Put it in there. Okay, I'm going to try to put it in the link, but Facebook's not working right now, so I'll put that in after the fact. But you can go there, you can learn about it, you can see a nice picture of me. That's the end of that plug. Thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, David. It's so cool that people come and take part in this with us. So really thank you everyone in the audience who showed up. And next week, I'm going to talk about my time with ayahuasca. And then the following week, I'm going to bring my client Anna on, who came down with me. So I had 2 clients this past week that came down and sat in ceremony with me, which is friggin' amazing and so cool. So she's going to come on and we'll share about, the experience of doing that together and all of that. Okay. Oh, 2 things that are really important that I've skipped over. Andrew, where do people find out about you if they want to connect with you or learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, a couple of places. So I've got a website. It's just andrewmundy.com. You can connect with me on Facebook. And if you are a guy, more than welcome to come join us in the No More Mr. Nice Guy community.
Nice. And what about yourself, David? Because you're a coach too, right?
Yeah, just starting down that path, but you can find me in Andrew's community. I oftentimes will pop in, read comments and comment, or feel free to check me out on Facebook. Just look for my name in Phoenix, Arizona. I think I'm the only David York in Arizona.
People are going to find out. They're going to discover some guy's going to get a whole bunch of emails.
And that's in America, Andrew.
America. Team America, World Police. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We love you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. And then you guys stay there. This is the part where I awkwardly stop the live stream and everyone has to listen to me stopping the live stream.